Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Homeworld Free, which has been delayed by the developers at this particular time. Now, the reason they have decided to delay the game, well, it's just not really ready for release from a control standpoint. Like, if we look at the game from a gameplay standpoint, from a performance standpoint, it is in a pretty good spot. The issue that the game does have, the issue that the game does suffer from, is the fact that it's not exactly controlling very well, or in a way that a lot of people are going to be able to handle. Though before I get into those details, I do want to talk about a couple of things that are happening right now with respect to the game, and just give my particular impression about just graphics, performance, and just overall gameplay. I think the game runs fairly well right now. And I do say that as someone who is generally a critic of a lot of games. There's been a ton of games that have come out over the years that just really don't handle all that well, that don't play all that well. And I can't necessarily explain it why optimization has certainly taken a backseat. It might be an engine issue in a lot of games, it might be just the lack of effort, but Homeworld Free, on my computer, which is certainly a really good computer, but Homeworld Free certainly is a game that does run fairly well. There are, however, some issues. Server connection issues, to be specific. So the server connection issues are not exactly great. It might be as a result of the fact that at the moment, with respect to the game, we are in this kind of situation where they are allowing everyone to play the game through the demo, so it could just very well be a case where, there's a bunch of people right now without good computers that are playing the game, and that's the reason that this is happening, that we're getting all those kind of players, and the performance is just not really up to par simply because of that. Thing is, I really believe that what this game could really use from my personal perspective at the moment would absolutely be a benchmark to be able to play with others online. It would force people to lower their settings so that the other people in the games they are playing with are not going to get a horrible performance. I understand the reasonings against this, but I want to point out this is exactly what Age of Empires 2 did, and it honestly worked quite well. Now, you are going to see me over here switching between control groups all the time, because right now we do have quite a lot of things to manage. So at this particular point, it's saying that I should move the carrier into position. Okay, let's go there and see what we get. But performance issues aside, for most part, the game does handle fairly well. The issue is of a different nature, I would argue. The issue is that the control scheme, and this is the reason they've decided to delay it, the control scheme of the game just isn't a particularly great one. Why is that? Well, to be quite blunt, it's a damn mess. Things like unit selection, or selecting enemy units to attack a particular position, moving to a particular position just so that you can get into that position and complete objectives. All of that is certainly harder to do in this game than it was in previous games in the series. And it's an odd thing to actually witness, because it's like Homeworld you could say it's always been a bit janky in terms of its control scheme, but I want to point out I've played the remasters. I played the originals. Don't forget the remastered for a second. I played the original versions of these games, and I have to say that this wasn't really as big of a problem. It wasn't really as big of a problem as it is right now. And I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Why this is happening right now in the game. They've chosen to go with some weird control scheme, and look, you can get used to it. I think that's the important thing. But there is a level of jank that wasn't present in previous games that is absolutely present here. And that's kind of the problem when we're thinking about the game. Like, you might see me going into the population menu to select a bunch of units, because just selecting things on its own can be a bit janky. Sure, you do have all the unit types, but like, I just want to select the frigates. The reason I want to select the frigates, for instance, in this particular case, is because, well, let's say that, you know, I have bombers and interceptors and all that kind of stuff. Well, the issue you're gonna have with that is, the problem you're gonna have with that particular situation, and hopefully my controllers, my resource controllers are not gonna get obliterated, but the problem you're gonna have with that, the way units control and the way you move units is not exactly conducive towards supporting precise operations. And this is the kind of game and the kind of series where it's very, very easy to lose units and very easy to end up in positions where your entire army gets obliterated in a lot of missions. Anyone who's played Homeworld 1 and Homeworld 2 will tell you that. That much. But why is this happening? Well, line of sight is very important. Unit control, unit maneuverability is quite a very important thing as well. So having that precise control, I guess you can just shift down, shift click stuff, and that will work. So not having precise unit control, not having the ability of moving units in the areas you want them to move at the speed you want. This is the kind of game, again, like, kill speeds are fast, units are fast. So not having the ability to just like even select a unit and constantly fighting the controls is an issue. So for instance, one of the problems that exists is the fact that, you know, you want to right click an enemy to attack them, right? Well, good luck with that when units are moving so fast. The selection box is very, very small, and if you right click on open space, it opens this menu. You don't even have a situation where let's see what we can get. Benefit. You don't even have a situation where when we're looking at things like you can't even right click to move to a location. No, you need to right click, open a menu, then left click, and you pray it works, because more often than not it may not even work there. That's the problem. By the way, don't even bother with the interceptors. Bombers are useful, to be certain, but it's like you end up with this kind of... It is just such a gigantic clusterfuck of a situation that, like, I'm not sure what to describe it. And you can lose a lot of guys right like this. And let's get out of here before it becomes a problem. Like, I think that's one of the things they need to change. It's like, if I right click somewhere, I moved somewhere, and I don't have to constantly select and deselect elevation, all that. That is one of the things I do believe firmly needs to be changed with that. Like, just the very basic unit control. And, well, I just lost the carrier right there at the very end. What a shame. Because without that kind of precise unit control, you are going to end up losing a lot. And anyone who's played Homeworld knows how the mission design can be. Like your Homeworld 1, Homeworld 2, you had to be methodical, you had to be careful, and yet you had some very, very fast-paced engagements as well. So that is something, like, having to constantly fighting the controls when you're trying to go for that kind of precise control scheme, when it does matter. And you've got other things to worry about in a battle. You've got unit formations to worry about. You've got stances of units. You've got unit abilities. You've got different unit types who are... Like, the problem with not being able to just easily right-click an enemy unit and giving them an order, the issue that comes with that is the fact that you're going to end up in a situation where, like, don't have the precise bomber control, for instance, to be able to target capital ships. Even big ones that you might think, oh, capital ships are really large. Obviously, they are really large, but yeah, some problems with respect to that. Some significant issues with respect to managing that. Let alone targeting, you know, swarms of bombers, because you don't need to necessarily, you don't necessarily need to target everything in your path. You might be focusing in a particular battle. You might be focusing on targeting. You might be focusing in a particular battle on trying to destroy the enemy bombers or the enemy interceptors before they kill your interceptors. Or, you know, you're trying to target the enemy interceptors so they're not killing your bombers before they're launching an attack on capital ships. So just the selection of units and the way they're moved. Another thing, by the way, with this disc, let's say you want to move to an area. Well, great. When you right-click in open space, it's just going to open that radial menu. The issue is that when you have, like, cover over here, it's just going to move them here. You don't have the ability of selecting the altitude, like the side, for instance, unless you bring the camera around and, you know, you order the units there. Yeah, these are some of the things that actually do matter quite a significant amount when we're looking at a campaign situation right here. And again, this is one of those things that absolutely needs to change in a very, very substantial way to have a better experience during the course of the campaign and war games, like the pacing of war games. Yeah, I can't believe I lost the carrier on the on the finish line, so to speak. Although, it might just be one of those games where you just build frigates, you build corvettes, you build destroyers. I mean, certainly this was the case as well in Homeworld 1 and 2, like managing... But that said, bombers and fighters were incredibly useful. It's not like you weren't using them. Also, unit caps, right? So you were obviously producing bombers and fighters because, well, you weren't able to necessarily produce everything that you might have wanted otherwise. You can just build a fleet of capital ships. And it took a very long campaign to do so, so actually having good bomber, fighter, or interceptor and recon control is rather important during the course of a campaign. Very important, point of fact. So not having that kind of precise control, yeah, it's a bit of an issue, I gotta say. Is a bit more of an issue than one might think. And so, yeah, those are the kind of things that need to be changed. Like, I want to be able to click in an area open space and just have my units move there instead of like dealing with this, because it's not even precise, it's not even accurate. Like, okay, let's say I want my guys to move by the resources. I could right-click the resources. They might start going in the general area of the resources. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, let's say I want to get them to move in that area, or I want them to attack move in that area. I could by holding down control. And you're also constantly holding down modifiers like control, shift, alt, all that. You're constantly having to press all of that. And also you don't even select everything. Like, you do a drag of unit selection, and it's like just gonna select your military units. Well, maybe I want to do a drag of, like, you know, the carrier and everything involved. And even selecting that all those military units is not necessarily as useful as you might necessarily believe, because you don't want your fighters with your frigates. You want your you want the fighters to be separate. You want to put them in their own groups. All those kind of things that, you know, have an impact with respect to the to a game. Like right now, I just guessed the best meta in a campaign is just to play with vast swarms of frigates. That might just be it. And also get suppression frigates to deal with enemy fighters. Try and constantly fight the controls. Like something as simple as ordering my units to move there. Oh, they'll move there, but then it's like, okay, I want them to attack, to say attack move, in that particular area, can I order them to do so? I can't. Yeah, it's those kind of things that are impactful in a campaign. And where the issues are really coming in. Right here, like trying to get the... Trying to get the control over here in this situation is an interesting exercise. Because I'm ordering them to attack in this area, right? And now they're dealing with that, but there's more enemies that are coming in. And my units may be moving and not firing, or they're firing maybe at the wrong units. There we go, some level of success. We're gonna send that frigate. You end up wasting time, and it's not like there's small-scale battles that are gonna be happening here. No, there's gonna be large-scale stuff happening in this particular campaign situation. Like, even from the very beginning over here in War Games. And like, you lose track of units. Sure, you can always bring the sensor menu. Great! It's like, I got the sensor menu. Can't select everything. That's a different discussion. And there we go. Get out of there. Success. Those are the kind of things that, yeah, just movement, attacking, being able to right-click enemies easily, being able to attack move, being able to give orders easily. And I'm not talking simple orders, I'm talking complex orders. I'm talking like, okay, I want my guys to move from position to position to position in a particular area. Like, let's say I want them to move here in a more logical sense. And I want that to actually make some level... I want that to be easily done, as opposed to the nightmare that currently happens in terms of the game controls. And I'm not even done with the camera, with the controls. Like the camera controls, like having to, okay, so you want to rotate? Okay, you can hold down the right mouse button, which by the way you use to target units, target objectives. Like, one of the reasons why attack moving is actually so important is because, well, you might not see something before you get into an area. So what are we gonna do? You're gonna just give an odd movement order. You're just gonna give a very, very odd movement order at the moment. And also, your units are, like, not having precise controls. Like, well, maybe you want to reposition your units as well, because, as you might imagine, that's also an important thing in a game like this, like how you position the units that you do have under your control. All that is actually quite very, very important. Like, I'm having to go to the population menu and just constantly select stuff because it's gonna be left behind otherwise. At least the cache of resources. By the way, can I mention this about war games, like how the resource locations can be a bit annoying to reach? Or move the carrier to a position. That's a lot of fun. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Stay tuned for more.